Hey there, friends. Dave Paulides, Canada Missing Project, copyrighted edition for our video channel. Woo! The elections are over, and I can't say that I'm going to miss 40 commercials on TV a night for politicians and 20 text messages. I'm so glad it's all gone. It's all over. A couple things. First of all, you know I was a policeman for 20 years. And I had no problem enforcing the law. I think if you break the law, there needs to be consequences. I don't think anyone should have immunity, and I don't think anyone should commit a crime thinking they are going to get immunity. And to that end, I think there's a segment of our society that tend to think that they're never going to have to face consequences. I am sorry to say that I believe that the people that have gotten off the hook for the last several years about doing major crimes against another group should get pursued and prosecuted. And I say that is because, do you know why people from all over the world are coming to the United States? Because it's safe. Because we respect other people's rights. Because it has opportunity. Well, if we as a nation are going to continue, we need to maintain those rights, maintain that safe environment. And if that takes bringing our soldiers home and securing our homeland, I'm all for that. I think we've spent too much time protecting the rest of the world and too little time protecting our own world. And we need to be able to raise our kids and our families in a super safe environment. And I pray that in the years to come that we will have that. And we will always need migrants. I ran HR groups for years. I hired migrants from all over the world under the visa programs. It was complicated, it was expensive, but they definitely added to our world. And I think if you come here legally, I will personally embrace you. We need you. About missing people. Got two super interesting cases today. One, and they're both fairly current. One is about a truck driver who disappeared, and another is a case update that you're going to find fascinating. On the first case, it involves a man in Scotland, a man named Andrew Gardiner. Andrew, this is a picture of him. To me, he looks a lot younger than 46 years old here. But he went missing September 7th, 2020 at 11 a.m. His occupation was he was a lumber truck driver for a company called A.W. Jenkinson. He was married to a woman named Tanya, and he had an 18-year-old daughter in 2020 named Caitlin. His mom was big in his life, and she lived in Dumfries, Galloway. He went to the Kennewick School and the Newton Rigg College. He had worked in a prior time as a chef at the King's Arm Hotel, and he'd been driving a truck for a while now. He lived with his wife in Castle Douglas. He was a super hardworking man. And what I mean by that, I don't know if many of you could do a lifestyle like Andy. His name was Andrew, but they called him Andy. Andy did. He'd wake up really early on a Monday, drive his car out to his employer, which was quite a ways, drive truck all day, return to his car, and sleep in his car every night of the week until Friday, work all day, get in his car and drive home. Friends, that's a hard worker. I don't care who you are. Living that lifestyle, that's rough. And I suppose there's too few people that are willing to work those kind of hours and conditions these days. I was just in a store 2 days ago, and Angie was shopping, and I was just talking to one of the assistant managers, and I said, "Hey, how are you guys doing on hiring?" He goes, "Oh, we need people so bad." And I said, "What's the hiring conditions like for you?" And he says, "Nobody wants to work. Or if they work, they only want to work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. They don't understand that you got to work your way up to those hours. Everyone has to work weekends. Everyone has to work nights when they're new. But nobody wants to." And he says, it seems like there's a whole genre of people that are willing to work really, really hard. Well, Andy was not one of those guys. On September 7th at 11 a.m., he was driving his lumber truck. You know, like he carried logs and things. And he drove up into an area to pick up a load. The truck was empty. He parked his truck at a location called A706 at the Heathland Forest in South Lanarkshire. And he went through this gate. This looks like every other place I've been in Northwest United States that has lumber. So he drove into there, pulled over to the side of the road. Now where's this? He's right here. Here's Edinburgh, Lockerbie. So this area is not very well developed, a lot of open space. Okay. So he pulls over to the side of the road. He'd been driving a truck for a while. He knew the truck had a dash cam. Camera sits on the dashboard, looks forward. Recording system. Parks the truck, gets out of the truck, walks around the front of the truck. And according to the police, he throws his cell phone into the woods and walks into the woods, which is the last time he was seen. His family eventually reported him missing when he didn't return home. Police responded to the area of the truck, and multiple canine units, drones, covered a massive area of the woods. Ground pounders came in. They were very confused as to why a very stable, happy employee would do this. Well, once the search was over, after several days, investigators checked his bank accounts, weren't touched. Checked his emails, weren't touched. He lived with his wife, Tanya, and she was devastated but didn't want to talk to the press. But Andy's mom, who was 78 years old, was one of the people who was like the family spokesman and was highly involved. In every kind of way imaginable, his mom said this made no sense and was a 100% complete shock. She said she'd seen him just a few weeks earlier in August, seemed very happy, upbeat, normal self. She said this is a completely bizarre thing to happen, and it's completely out of character for Andy. I've heard similar things before, but I gotta admit, what he did is pretty bizarre. And for him not to be found, I mean, we're more than 4 years later now, still nothing. So nobody in your world or my world would voluntarily separate themselves from their phone, which is a contact point for family, friends, and business. Nobody would voluntarily do that unless there was ulterior motives. Now, he did this in view of the dash cam on his truck. Question I have is, did he do that in front of the truck purposely so people would see it? Or was it an unconscious, spur-of-the-moment decision? Did he mean to do that to send a message that he didn't want contact? This case is so similar to others we've talked about where people abruptly go into the woods and disappear. The Travis Walton case. Travis is a good friend. I know him. We've done conferences together all the time. A really, really good person. And I met his son. His son is a big supporter of Missing 411. In fact, Travis brought him to one of our conferences just to meet me. And so Travis is coming down the mountains in Arizona with a logging crew. They see a bright light in the woods and they all get out and look. Unknown why, Travis just starts walking right towards the craft like he's mesmerized. They see this bright light in this forest, and as they get closer, they can see it's a UFO hovering in the woods. Everyone's screaming at Travis, get back, get back. And he just walks right up, and it abducts him, and he's gone. So these people that I talked to you about kind of have that same sort of unusual, inconsistent, out of character behavior. Now the question I ask everyone is, why can't the canines track his scent? That doesn't make any sense to me. There was no indication from any family member that he was depressed or anything was imminent. Other of you have said that the cases just like this that I've given to you remind you of somebody who's gone through mind speak. Mind speak is you hear something in your head. There's a lot of people who think aliens can mind speak to you. Bigfoot can mind speak to you. That's what people say. But other people who have been deemed to be mentally ill claim to hear voices as well. And when I was real young, I used to think, well, those people that are mentally ill that are saying they're hearing voices, how do we know they're not really hearing voices? Are they the ones that are susceptible to hearing outside sounds from demonic forces, from alien entities? Who knows? I think to deem it that they're mentally ill just because they're hearing voices, I don't think that's right. Because if the people who are abducted on the UFOs hear these voices in their head coming from the aliens, they're never deemed mentally ill. There's one person in the Bigfoot world who's made a big splash in the last 20 years for claiming he can speak to the Bigfoot through mind speak. I don't see him being listed mentally ill. So what is it? Could Andy have been spoken to and then took off to find out who it is? Could they have said something, hey, I'm here in the woods and blah, blah, blah. Remember the case in Idaho where a guy in the film crew was standing on a ridge and then out of nowhere, saying nothing, he just takes off on a dead run into the middle of nowhere and then he's never found. Well, what's that? Especially when that person had no no history of mental health issues. So Andrew Gardiner still hasn't been found, and his daughter, Caitlin, should be 22 now, and her mom, Tanya, they're just looking for their dad and their husband. They want to know what happened. There have been public notices put out saying, hey, if you're alive, contact us. Just let us know you're alive. We're not going to try to convince you to come back or anything. Just call your mom and tell her you're okay. So one more time, especially if you're in Europe, I mean, it's so easy to travel around Europe these days. He could be anywhere. Andy Gardiner, 46 years old, missing September 7th, 2020 at 11 a.m. Thank you. The next case. When I was in Colorado, this case hit my heart pretty hard. And here's why. This involved a woman, 35 years old. Her name was Michelle Vanek. She went missing September 24th, 2005. She was a mother of 4, ages 1 to 16. She was in really good shape. She always wanted to climb a 14er. Now, I made a video about this, and I'll try to put the link up so you can watch the original video so I don't have to return and do everything again for you. But suffice it to say, she was in really good shape. Well, her and her husband had a really good friend named Eric Sawyer. Eric was a super athlete, had summited many 14ers, and wanted to summit Mount of the Holy Cross in Eagle County, Colorado. So first of all, this is Michelle on one of her hikes. She's wearing a backpack, using climbing poles, hiking poles. Those are going to be key later, so remember that. This is an 1874 photo of Mount of the Holy Cross, and you know why it's called Mount of the Holy Cross. Very unusual there. Old picture. So as this disappearance is going on, here's the basic facts behind it. Both Eric and Michelle get up near the summit, and Michelle says, hey, I'm just so tired. You go ahead and summit. I'll just wait right here. So let me tell you, when you're walking straight uphill at 13,500 feet, there's not a lot of air to breathe. And you get really tired. Your muscles need oxygen. Your blood needs oxygen. And you're just sucking it up as hard as you can. Easy to get a headache. Easy to get fatigued. Michelle had never done a 14er before, didn't know what it was like up that high. Eric had done many. She says, I'm just going to sit down and wait right here. Eric says, no problem. I'll hustle and get up to the top as quick as I can. Eric goes up, summits, takes some pictures, gets back down to where Michelle's at. She's not there. Michelle was a very reliable person. There was no reason for her to go anywhere. A lot of people couldn't believe she did go anywhere. And because of that, they pointed a finger at Eric. Well, personally, I don't think it was Eric. I don't think Eric had anything to do with this. She was sitting in the middle of a gravel field, number one. And, I'm sorry, not a gravel field, a boulder field, when she disappeared. So Eric searches for her, can't find her, goes up and down the mountain from where she's at many times, then eventually tries to run down the mountain and get a hold of an Eagle County sheriff. That night, Eagle County gets the call, they put it into gear, and they set up a search. Now, other people have disappeared off this mountain before. This isn't the first time. So Eagle County puts up the biggest search in their county's history. Canines, helicopters, planes, ground pounders everywhere. They call in Vail Mountain Search and Rescue, one of the best in Colorado. And they're not finding anything. Now, Michelle's wearing colors, like in the picture I showed you, that are not natural, so they're going to stick out. Why they're not finding her is disturbing everybody. Eventually, they call off the search. Now, 17 years after Michelle disappears, and thousands of people climbing in, around, and up that mountain, nobody's finding anything, which is pretty bizarre. But in October of 2022, hikers are off trail. They're in the middle of a boulder field, and they find one boot. Well, Dave, that's pretty weird. Yeah, I'd say so. And they take a picture of it, and they leave it where it is, and they come back and they tell the sheriff. Well, it was so late in October, bad weather was setting in. They passed the photo around, and people are pretty sure that that's Michelle's boot. But they can't be sure. Next summer, in 2023, another group of searchers goes up, and they get to the location, GPS location of where the boot, and they recover it. They determine it is an identical match in size, brand, everything to what Michelle was wearing. Statistically, it'd be impossible to be anybody else's boot. Why would anybody leave a boot up there in the middle of nowhere, off trail? So another team of searchers in 2023 go back into that same area, search, don't find anything. Now, finding one boot is odd, I gotta say. When Jared Adadero's shoes were found, they were found within about 10 feet of each other. Michelle Vanik's boots, I only found one. Now here's the part of the story that gets pretty weird. But you guys are used to weird stories, and this one falls into that realm. Now in the fall of 2023, the president of Vail Mountain Board of Directors is a man named Scott Beebe. Scott has done a lot for search and rescue. He's a good man. Now, Scott has a doctorate in theology and is a pastor of a Vail church, besides being the president of Vail Mountain Search and Rescue Board of Directors. So Beebe goes to sleep one night and has a dream. He dreams that Michelle Vanik's soul, her remains, didn't want to be found by men. Only women search team. What do you make of that? I mean, really, what do you make of that? So think about it. First of all, why would it matter who found her? Second of all, who gave that message to Scott? Think about that. I mean, we've talked about this before, but who's delivering that message? Now, a soul, most people believe, a soul leaves the body when the body dies. But Scott's smart. And he has a religious background. So he thinks about it, and he goes to the top woman in his search and rescue organization, and he tells her to put together a team of women to search for Michelle. And he spoke with a woman named Emily Brown, who's going to lead this new team. In 2024, Emily gets a 6-member team to review, all women, to review the maps and trails on Mount of the Holy Cross in the general area where Michelle disappeared. And Scott asked them to look at the case with a new perspective, kind of think outside the box. So the first thing that happened is that on September 13th of this year, Erica German and another one named Smith, they find some remains on the mountain. 10 days later, the whole team goes. And they find Michelle's poles in this one little area, very close to the trail, but just off trail. In the narratives, it said that the women, when they found Michelle's poles, were shaking. I would have been too. They knew what they had. They kept looking and they found her backpack, the cap she was wearing, 2 mittens, a digital camera in her backpack, and car keys. Car keys were matching the car that she had left up there to drive in. Search and Rescue commented that this was very close to the trail. So I don't really care who you are and what your thoughts are, but I'm telling you for a fact, if those remains were next to a trail, I guarantee it was searched for. And search and rescuers went right by that area. I guarantee it. There was no mention of any bones found. But after 19 years, the wilderness floor is very efficient. And at about 10,000 feet, that's timberline in Colorado, thereabouts. Above that, there's not a lot there, nutrient-wise. And rodents, marmots, they would all take the bones and chew on them and get nutrients off the bones. So they would probably all disappear. And they didn't report finding any. That's what I want you to think. So the pastor, the president of Vail Mountain Rescue, has a dream. Now, I have read thousands and thousands of search and rescue reports. The first time I've ever heard of a dream where searchers had to be restricted to one sex, females. Many of the dreams I've covered for you talk about people describing a location that they see in their dream. In one instance, a FBI forensic artist drew what the person said, and another detective identified the location, and they went and recovered the body. Now, when I was thinking that, the message was to send just women, was that so that possibly they could be victimized in some way? Is it possible maybe women have a more open mind and maybe can be led to the body easier? Maybe women are easier to mind speak to? Did any of these women feel like they were led? When I made Missing 411 the UFO connection, if you guys really have paid attention, you know that I've said in that movie, I felt like I was being led. Everything happened in a chronological way, west to east, and it all fell in perfectly. I'd like to say, I planned that out. No, no, that movie just fell into place. When I got home, I told Angie, I said, call me crazy, but I feel like some force was leading me down that line. For what it's worth. So Again, there was no overt force, nobody speaking in my head, and no arrows drawn on the ground. But could these searchers have been led to what had been missed for 19 years? Could they have been led in some way? I don't know. Search and rescue people are notoriously quiet in speaking about what they see, what they do, and how they find it. They're afraid they're going to get embarrassed. They're afraid they're not going to be used on more searches. There's a lot of weird, strange stuff that goes on. But I can tell you, from talking to the ones I have, there's a lot of strange stuff that goes on. Yeah. So, thanks for being here. That's the update on Michelle Vanek. I'm sure that her family is very pleased that they have a little more information. But what all the articles did say is they said they have no idea what happened up there. Yeah, right on. So in the meantime, kindness. It costs none of us to be kind. It's free. Smile, say hi, be nice. And lastly, this is my latest Missing 411 book, Missing 411 State of Washington. It comes with a driving map of the state of Washington with all the locations where people disappeared. And you can find this on our website at NA, like North America, nabigfootsearch.com. And it also has our new Bigfoot, Wild Man, and Giants book on there. And you can watch all of our movies, Missing 411, Missing 411 The Hunted, Missing 411 The UFOs Connection, on Tubi, Tubi, online for free. Pass the word on. Watch the movies. By the way, Huck says, I'm not coming in today. I need a day off. Mental stress day. Paulides out.